Some arguments aren't about work. They're about control, restraint, and everything left unsaid. Subscribe to Emo Saga for slow burn tension, power clashes, and stories that always reach a real ending. I don't raise my voice. That's the first thing people always get wrong about confrontations like this. They imagine shouting, slam doors, dramatics. This is worse. Because my voice is calm when I say it. You can't keep changing the scope after deadlines are set. The words land cleanly in the silence of his office. He looks up from his desk slowly. Too slowly. The kind of movement meant to remind you who owns the room. Sit down, he says. No, I reply. That's the moment everything shifts. His name is Marcus Hale. White. Late 30s. CEO material in the way magazines like to pretend is effortless. Tailored suits, controlled tone, a reputation for being brilliant and impossible in equal measure. He's also my boss. And until this moment, we've never argued. I wasn't asking, he says. I meet his gaze without blinking. And I wasn't offering an opinion. I was stating a boundary. The air tightens. I can feel it press against my ribs. You work for this company, he says evenly. And this company adapts. And people burn out. I reply just as evenly. Because you treat flexibility like an excuse to ignore agreements. His jaw tightens. Good. You're out of line, he says. I'm exhausted. I counter. There's a difference. Silence stretches between us. Not empty. Loaded. The city hums faintly through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him. The office smells faintly of coffee and something sharper. Control. Maybe. He stands. Marcus is taller than he looks sitting down. He buttons his jacket with a precise motion, eyes never leaving mine. You don't get to talk to me like this, he says. I do, I reply. If you want honesty. He takes a step forward. Not aggressive. Intentional. You think this is about honesty? He asks. Yes, I say. And about respect. Another step. The desk is no longer between us. Respect, he repeats softly, is knowing when to push and when to step back. And leadership, I say, is knowing when to listen. The distance between us is now measured in inches. I don't move. Neither does he. The room feels smaller than it should. You've been testing me, he says quietly. I almost laugh. You give yourself too much credit. His eyes flicker. Annoyance. Interest. Something else. I don't test people. I continue. I respond to pressure. And you've been applying a lot of it. He studies my face, searching for something. Fear, hesitation, regret. He finds none. You're very composed, he says. I have to be, I reply. Someone in this room should be. That does it. He moves. Not fast. Not violent. Just decisively. He steps closer, until my back meets the wall beside the window. Not slammed. Just claimed by space. The city lights blur behind a glass. I feel the cool surface at my spine. Marcus plants one hand against the wall beside my shoulder. Not touching me. Not yet. This, he says quietly, is where most people realize they've gone too far. I tilt my head slightly. And this is where you usually intimidate them into backing down. His mouth curves faintly. Usually. And tonight. And tonight, he says, lowering his voice, you're not backing down. No. The proximity is undeniable now. I can feel his warmth. His breath. The controlled tension in the way he's holding himself back. You should be careful, he says. You're in my office. And you should be careful, I reply. You're standing very close to your employee. That lands. Hard. His hand flexes against the wall. He doesn't step back. But something in his expression shifts. You don't look afraid, he says. I'm not, I reply. I'm angry. About the workload? No, I say softly. About being dismissed. For the first time since I walked in, Marcus looks unsettled. Not defensive. Uncertain. You think I don't see you? He asks. I think you see results, I answer. Not people. The words echo. His gaze drops. Not to my body. To my face. Studying. Reevaluating. This isn't how this was supposed to go, he murmurs. No, I agree. It isn't. The silence stretches again. Different now. Charged. You could walk away, he says quietly. Leave. HR. Formal complaints. Policies. Yes, I reply. But you're still standing here. Yes. His other hand lifts. Slow. Deliberate. It stops just short of my arm. He doesn't touch me. Not yet. Why, he asks. Because I won't be small to make you comfortable. I say. The words come out steady. True. Something breaks open in his expression. Not anger. Recognition. You don't want my apology, he says. No, I reply. I want change. He exhales slowly, drops his hand, steps back half a pace. The space rushes in between us like a held breath released. You're right, he says quietly. I blink. Once. Twice. What? I ask. I've been pushing too hard, he continues, and hiding behind authority instead of owning it. The admission feels heavier than shouting ever would have. I don't know how to do this without control, he adds. That's not my problem, I reply gently, but it can be part of the solution. He looks at me like I've just rewritten the rules of something he thought was fixed. This doesn't end here, he says. I know, I reply. Not professionally, he clarifies. The way he says it makes my pulse jump. I'm not asking for anything inappropriate, he continues. But something changed in this room. Yes, I agree. And it complicates things. It already was complicated, I say. He nods slowly. You can go, he says. I don't move right away. Marcus, I say. He looks up. This conversation? I continue. It only works if it doesn't cost me my job. He meets my gaze steadily. It won't, he says. I give you my word. I step away from the wall. Walk past him. My legs feel steady. My heart does not. As my hand closes around the doorknob, his voice stops me. You didn't lose control, he says. I glance back. You challenged me, he continues. And I didn't expect that. I meet his eyes. Get used to it. I leave the office with my spine straight and my head high. But the moment the door clicks shut behind me, one thought pulses unmistakably through my mind. That wasn't just a professional line that blurred. It was a turning point. And whatever comes next, neither of us will pretend it didn't happen. The rest of the evening passes in a blur. I don't run. I don't replay the argument out loud to anyone. I go home, cook something simple, and sit on my couch staring at a wall longer than I'd like to admit, letting the adrenaline drain out of my system slowly, like something poisonous leaving my bloodstream. Because what happened in that office wasn't just tension, it was exposure. Monday morning, the building feels different. Not quieter. Not louder. Sharper. Every hallway feels like it's waiting to see how I walk through it. I do it the same way I always have. Head up. Pace steady. No apology in my posture. Marcus doesn't call me into his office. That's the first thing that tells me this isn't going to end badly. Instead, an email goes out company-wide before noon. Subject: Project Scope and Team Sustainability. Body: Effective immediately. Scope changes will require written approval from department leads. No retroactive deadlines. No exceptions. I read it twice. Then I sit back in my chair. Because that wasn't damage control. That was ownership. He asked me to meet later that afternoon. Not urgently. Not privately. Calendar invite. Glass-walled conference room. Door stays open. That matters. When I arrive, he's already there. No jacket this time. Sleeves rolled up. Laptop closed. Different energy. You can sit, he says. I do. I meant what I said, he begins. About this not costing you your job. I know, I reply. And I want to be clear about something else, he continues. What happened Friday stays professional. I nod. That's the only way it works. Yes, he agrees. For both of us. There's a pause. A controlled one. You were right, he says again. About more than the workload. I don't respond immediately. I don't listen well when I think I'm under threat, he adds. And I confuse authority with certainty. That's common, I say carefully. Not harmless. He accepts that without flinching. I won't step that close again, he says. Ever. Not unless invited. Not unless appropriate. The words matter. Not because they erase what happened, but because they define what won't happen again. Thank you, I say. He studies me for a moment. You're not afraid of me, he says. No, I reply. But I expect respect. You have it. Weeks pass. Work stabilizes. The team breathes easier. And Marcus changes. Not dramatically. Not performatively. He listens more than he speaks. He asks instead of assumes. He checks before he pushes. The company notices. So do I. The tension doesn't disappear. It evolves. It becomes something quieter. He doesn't loom anymore. But sometimes, in meetings, our eyes meet, and there's an awareness there that didn't exist before. Not desire. Not yet. Just recognition. The moment it shifts happens unexpectedly. A client dinner. Small. Off-site. Optional attendance. I go because I want to. Marcus is already there. Not at the head of the table. That's new. The conversation is easy, professional, light, no power plays, no sharp edges. When the meeting ends, people filter out naturally until it's just the two of us standing near the restaurant's entrance. You didn't have to stay, he says. I wanted to, I reply. He nods. Outside, the night is cool. City lights glow softly. Neither of us rushes to leave. I've been careful, he says quietly. I've noticed. Not because I'm afraid of consequences, he adds. Because I don't want to get it wrong. I study him. That's new. I say. So is you staying, he replies. Fair. We stand there, close, but not touching. No wall. No corner. Just space. Chosen space. I won't cross a line, he says. But I need to say something. I nod. Go ahead. What I felt in that office wasn't about control, he says. It was about realizing you weren't someone I could manage or dismiss. And that unsettled me more than any argument ever has. The honesty lands cleanly. I don't want a complication, I say. Neither do I, he replies. I want clarity. And what does that look like? It looks like patience, he says. Distance when needed. And honesty when it matters. I consider that. This doesn't become something unless it makes sense, I say. Agreed. And it doesn't start while I report to you. His jaw tightens slightly. Then he nods. Agreed. That right there, is the ending no one expects. 3 months later, I move teams. Same company. Different structure. Same respect. Marcus congratulates me publicly. Professionally. Proudly. The first time we cross paths after that, it's different. Lighter. No imbalance. No weight pressing on the moment. Just two people who survived a collision without destroying each other. It happens one evening after a long day. Elevator lobby. Quiet. We stand side by side. No rush. You look relieved, he says. I am, I reply. Good, he says. You earned it. When he finally steps closer, it's not sudden. It's not invasive. It's unmistakably invited. I don't step back. Now, he says softly, this is where I ask. I meet his gaze. And would you like to get coffee with me? Not as my employee. Not as a challenge. Just as a man who learned something. And a woman who refused to be small, he finishes. I smile. Yes, I say. I would. Nothing explodes. Nothing burns. Nothing breaks. Which is exactly why it works. Because the ending no one expected wasn't scandal. It wasn't domination. It wasn't crossing a line. It was two people choosing restraint first. And connection only when it finally made sense.